Hi there, and welcome to my Soul Authority channel. I'm Lorraine Van Tool, transformational life coach, holistic psychologist, and meditation guide. I'm staking out the safe spiritual space in solidarity so we can hear our authentic voice over all the noise and realign ourselves with clear choice. This is at the heart of Soul Authority. If you felt burned out and low, join us in rekindling our inner fires and getting back in the flow. So, first thing that we're going to do is become very body aware. If you can lean against something, the back of a seat, sofa, maybe baseboard of your bed, that would be great. For this meditation, we're sitting up just so that our spine can lean against the tree that we're going to connect with. So first, what we're doing is trying to balance and connect the body as much as possible, which is kind of half of the battle, half of the game. I don't like to use all of this violent language, but sort of the two birds with killing two birds with one stone. How about feeding two birds with one stone? Half of the game, we're setting ourselves up for as much success as possible. Imagine you're maybe going to a exercise class or yoga class, or standing on a surfboard. And that is sort of the feeling. Your feet on the ground, you may be more awareness in your upper legs, your core, instead of our head sort of spinning or thoughts spinning. And a lot of us actually do that as a default. So what my guides often like to do is teach you how to retreat, TREET, when you're going about your normal regular life. Of course, it's wonderful if you can actually go and connect to trees and be in nature and do this forest bathing. But they had taught me after I moved to the US, and I call it like moved, from my jungle sanctuary to the concrete jungle, how to do this even when you're struggling with nature deficit and you don't have access to that. Just reminding me and reminding you guys that we are nature embodied. We are just as mysterious as all the things that awe us in nature. If we look under a microscope, it's very easy to see that. So we want to connect to our true nature and start with that kind of mindset. And so what we want to experience is sort of the front, back, left, right, and the top, bottom, the six directions, feeling evenly dispersed, balanced. You also want to make sure, sometimes I say, imagine yourself being a tortilla, you're rolling it out. If there's any holes, just get a little dough from somewhere, put it in the hole, spread it out, make sure it's even, not thicker some side and thinner another side. We want aliveness, we want presence. You want to be covered as much as possible. But what we're going to find out once we're in, you're still going to probably detect and discover dimensions and places where there is a short circuit, a little disruption, a little bit of rupture and repair that's needed, or there might be darkness or stagnation or emptiness. So we do the best we can physically, and then we're going to go under the mind in a meditative state, and we're going to often discover a little bit more. But once we've done that, you can tap in your heart if you don't feel a lot of aliveness. Recently, they've used this metaphor, which I like a lot. That heart is like the epicenter, kind of think of an earthquake. And a lot of times, what we tend to do is it's often like the opposite. Like all the outer rings are alive. We're very we're thin skinned, but we're also very activated and sort of sensitive to our environment, and all the presence, all our attention goes on the outer rings, and almost like the whole inner ring is like the opposite. It's like we're the most dead inside, and then the outer rings increasingly have more sensitivity and awareness. We want to do the opposite. We want to have our heart leading, and that is soul authority, your agency. You're in charge, you're generating that love, and we are resourcing it. We're drawing it in from the sun and from the earth, instead of relying on the people around us to resource this, and then giving back. And often then there's a conflict of interest, right? Because we're upset. They fell short. Of course they will, in terms of what we know, the power we know we can experience within ourselves. So tap in your heart to get it more alive, and that is where you're going to enter. Once you enter your heart center, I want you to imagine, you're entering a beautiful landscape where the four elements are supporting one another. And if you need to, at first, imagine like a greenhouse where you're totally in control of the temperature, the barometer, all of the things, water, heat, wind. That's fine to do that. I only say that because a lot of people, when they go under the mind, have no sense of how to sort of control that, and they might drop into sort of a climate crisis where there's like a flash flood or wildfire or all the imbalances happening, and their ego mind has just been trying to suppress that and and sort of buckle up and power through all that, and they had no idea that underneath that there was no alignment with mother nature's or our true nature's deep and powerful harmonizing principles and power. So I'm only doing that as a safety precaution, but if you're a meditator and you're good to go, then what we're doing is like dropping into that part of ourself that it's basically our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's full of love and healing energy. Most of us don't realize that love is actually freedom, freedom from all the ways in which interference and all the ways in which, we've learned to shut that down and disconnect. But if this makes sense to you and it's easy to drop, that's where we're dropping into. We're dropping into our true nature, which is this powerful source of energy that's similar to nature all around us. But if you need a little bit of help, then imagine you're walking through this beautiful sacred garden where there's the element of air, in the sense of maybe a pleasant breeze, some, beautiful, smells or rustling leaves. You have sunlight shining on you. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. There's lots of earth elements grounding you. There are trees maybe around, there are boulders, mountains maybe in the distance. They could be sand and pebbles under your feet. And there is running water underneath you in the clouds, maybe raindrops, but also there could be there could be a brook, there could be ocean waves lapping on the beach. There could be a very still lake. You know that life is flowing through you, just like water and life is flowing through you, through your blood vessels and the sweat glands and all the ways, in which water pushes the nutrients through our body and toxins out of our body. So, in this beautiful sanctuary where you're feeling very alive, we now want to center ourselves, and we also want to be still for a moment to reassess what's happening. So, find a sacred central tree. And in this situation, because we've been talking so much about it, make sure and find your mother tree, this mature tree that really rises above the rest. And once you've made the connection, I would like you to sit with the tree, and that is on purpose again through the years. Um, the trees have told me this is the best way to start the connection. And the image that always comes to mind is some avatar when they find the tree or the connection and it all lights up. So I kind of imagine that often. So you're retreating, you're sitting with the tree, and your spine is now connecting to the trunk of the tree. And it's to give your backbone more oomph, to give you a sense of, that the tree has your back, nature has your back, because we're so disconnected as a culture that even this feels counterculture, feels scary, feels like we're doing something wrong, especially when we're going to become still and more observant and less reactive and trust ourselves. And then, based on our assessment, or what I call breathing in that wisdom, and then breathing out thought and plans and actions, when we breathe in this wisdom, we're going to see it's often very different than what goes around us. And we're going to see the misalignments much more easily. And we're going to have to also strategize a bit. This is kind of what throws a lot of us off, especially when we're sensitive, kind-hearted, a little innocent, not realizing kind of why being a mother tree would throw somebody off and trigger them or threaten them. But if you not think about it, if we are, this is probably not happening so much in a forest, but in our human sort of communities, people are disconnected, and they're disconnected from shadow parts, heart emotions, or things that are easier for us to look at, to accept, to deal with, and to take accountability for. So as we're doing that for ourselves, we kind of activate these parts in others who don't want to look at these parts. And it's for us like no big deal. We're just maybe thinking we're having an open and honest conversation. And we're talking about lots of things that are stuffed away, or, beyond reach of awareness, or very shame laden, and that it becomes very triggering. Another thing that why we could be triggering is because there's envy and the fear that we talked about. There's to come by, you know interference, and so we might be scary, for that reason. We're also maybe challenging things, especially if we feel hurt and burned because we think people owe us these things. We might, say certain things with a little edge or a little pressure. So that could also, be threatening. So, in any event, us resourcing and being calm and still with our mother trees is going to help a lot, especially also when we buffer ourselves and we understand what could be sort of thrown at us. And then after we, protect ourselves, and do all the things necessary, we are in a much better position to strategize and take the proper actions. I call it aligned versus blind action steps. And I also say these action steps are alchemy action steps. Each of these steps done with great intention inevitably will change the dynamic. It's almost like hand in glove, or lock and key, or clockwork. You change yourself and you change the dynamic, you will inevitably change that. So we need to be also aware of what that could look like, and be compassionate, be considerate, not to, do too much that's going to overwhelm or defeat our purpose. So, yes, a lot of giving. And of course, we have our own needs too, but we need to be savvy where we get these needs met. So it is from the above and below, as well as the four directions around us. We have a dream team of guides: air guides, fire guides, earth guides, water guides, and any other guides. Could be all four, could be the yin yang, above, below. The more guides we have, the more resourced we will feel, and also the more we connect to others, like-minded, like-hearted people, the better we're going to feel. So anyway, sitting here with the tree, and just sort of reflecting on or conundrum who we are, the next thing we might want to do, actually, let me connect you more fully first. And then I want you to kind of assess a little bit, if you identified that you are Mother Tree, where you are in your growth. But let's resource first a little bit more. So feel the upper part of your body align with the upper part of the tree, the branches, the leaves, the canopy, and reach upward and outward towards the sun without any inhibitions or reservations. Absorb that light, that energy from the sun, from the star ancestors, and beyond. Just trace that lineage and understand what is feeding you from that sacred, masculine, young, symbolic energy, what's seeding us, what is uh, shining on us from above with this heat, this fire, sort of, this idea of fire and air being above ground, very energetic. And then we're going to drop into the roots, the legs, the feet, the toes, and we're going to connect with sacred mother energy, yin energy, mother, water, and earth, the damp and cool soil. And we're going to do the same thing, allow our roots to go as far out, as deep down as possible, towards the center of the earth, towards that fireball in the center that makes the earth alive, that nurtures the earth with all the minerals, elements, and all that life and giving energy. And we're absorbing that in our roots and feeling these two sources of energy in our heart, intermingle, where the above supports the below, the seen supports the unseen, and vice versa. It's material and spiritual, light and dark, life and death, good, bad, success, failure, all the opposites that we as humans tend to polarize, struggle with. Here in our tree form, with our tree guide, we see how beautifully they support one another, two sides of the same coin, and constantly keeping each other in balance. We see these cycles within ourselves, the food we eat and excrete within a day, and it cycles around and around. And we see our resistance or denial of death, of endings, and how difficult we make our lives by trying to fight sort of the waves of the ocean, the ups and downs, and really attaching to what we consider good and being aversive to what we consider bad. So here is where we align our ego mind as much as possible to nature wisdom, and we honor these polarities. Yes, we don't want to just walk out and say, oh yeah, let the bus hit us, whether we're dead or alive, it's the same. We are motivated to be pain free, to stay alive, to be healthy, but we also need to not lose sight of the big picture and zoom out, and not grab too much, to the white and the light, because shadow will form. And we also need to trust that when we hit rock bottom and it's, looks just dark and dead, that new life will emerge from that. So now that we're connected, what I like to do is start a breathing pattern and remind ourselves when we're no longer in this meditation that this is our home base. And this is to reach out for, even, when we're going about our lives, just like when you play tag and you hit your arm reaching, to home base. This is your true home base. And you might be more often sort of going about your day, um, sort of wearing your ego as you've always had, the familiar self, but that could be more of a false self. So that's just kind of something to consider, this reframe. The other thing that we want to do to remind ourselves of that is breathe from the top of your head. You're sort of breathing in this wisdom, maybe also the base of your spine. So you're breathing in this wisdom and then you're breathing out thought, rather than letting your forebrain sort of run the show and, thinking and overthinking and disconnecting from wisdom. So we'll have hundreds, if not thousands, of opportunities each day to do that, because it's so easy to disconnect. But now that we've done this, what I like you to do is sort of sit with your tree and ask, where am I in my growth? If I'm identifying with this mother tree metaphor, this blueprint, or if I'm just trying it on, um, what size am I? What's going on in my mind? Am I supporting this? Am I embracing this fully? Am I resisting it? Am I confused perhaps? A lot of times people in my groups would say things like, yeah, I would like to be, but based on my behavior, my instability, all the different things I'm doing, typically I'm not. I cannot possibly be one. So see if there's that kind of confusion. Both things can coexist. And if that confusion or your lack of stability doesn't feel congruent or doesn't feel aligned with who you are, we can also look at that. A lot of times, that reactivity, that instability is because we have expectations of those who are meant to lead and want to be in a symbiotic, reciprocal, purely like evenly matched dynamic with them, and they fall short and we get disappointed and we feel there's something wrong, we're not trying hard enough, we're not explaining our needs enough, or we're self-sacrificing too much, or we're doing something wrong. So just correcting that or seeing this differently could help a lot. What to do instead, just see what that feels like now, to source, to fully resource. And you can continue to do that, not just with the elements. Some of you already may be connected to your guides, but you can, continuously recruit or ask for more guides. I have dozens and dozens of guides, and they just keep coming, like Big Bird, like I said, from Sesame Street the other day. So just see what guides um, you still need if you're, for example, are struggling with something emotionally or physically, health wise, or whatever the thing might be logistically. You're just not seeing your way out. You can ask for a specific guide that gives you guidance and strength and insights around that. And you can dislodge that particular issue. So, resourcing more or working with this guide can help to then backlight what is now going on in this particular area where you're feeling a little bit unstable or needy, or not like the leader you're meant to be, not as powerful and strong, and seeing things with this higher perspective. Sometimes it's grieving, um, because the task of what we are meant to do in just one lifetime, which is grow so fast from a child who, of course, has needs, attachment needs, being a baby, young child, wanting to be fully engulfed and held by a mother, by a community. Of course, we have those needs. And then we need to grow so quickly, or sometimes we have these both at the same time, where we, want to already take care of our parents. Like me, I had, all kinds. I wanted to write a parenting book when I was a child, stuff like that. And at the same time needing to be taken care of. And so it's very challenging to, within a matter of decades, or one or two or three, outgrow all of that and grieve the imperfection of, or demote our caregivers and parents, and accept their limitations, and recognize that we're taking it personal. And not just mother trees, everybody, I think, gets caught up in that dynamic where the limitations of caregivers, loved ones, um, burn and hurt, and feel very personal. So differentiation is a task for every human, I believe. But especially as mother trees, this task is tremendous. It's big, because not only do we differentiate, we have a different role as well in resourcing deeper, like I said, through this wood wide web, it's called, this root system, and reaching further out and wider, more expansive in our consciousness, in sheltering, in providing habitat for so much life, so much biodiversity, attending to all within, sort of our arm's length, our scope, um, nurturing and sending nutrients and water to those in need. So all symbolically, right? And this could be hundreds of trees, life forms, and all this biodiversity. And we also have many different ways of cloning ourselves, and inspiring, and seeding other mother trees, helping them even when we die. Mother trees, when they die, they have this plan, to drop their nutrients more into the roots to send out. So this very generous, selfless way of being, understanding that we technically don't die. So there's a lot of ego death practices too, where we're understanding, instead of really fighting for individuality, individual existence, we do need to take care of it. We do need to make sure our cup is full, but our death is also just, right, a transition of energy into another form of energy, passing that along. So it's a tremendous task as a young child, to do that. Some of us had near-death experiences, including in here, right? I had them in my dreams too. So that ego death that you, then maybe feel drawn towards in spiritual practices, shamanic dismemberments, things like that, Buddhist, sort of ego death. It's more like ego alignment. Many of us are born sort of intuitively understanding these things. Um, but still, we are also organic, biological, social, and can get hung up on abandonment, rage, or different things like that. So grieving the ego death, the needs, being compassionate to the self really helps. And it also helps with being courageous. That's the next thing, really stepping into our leadership and shining your heart bright, vulnerable, knowing that you can be rejected, knowing that you can, what you experience maybe as rejection is just that mismatch, and you're filled with love. You cannot not be loved. You are love. And so you lead with that love, and you lead, and help others to understand that they are that too, which is a tremendous and difficult task, because we're so disconnected. And like I said, we can even get a lot of pushback teaching about love. So that is what my guides had mainly as the teaching about love. Love is an action verb. Love is shown in very small acts, and these acts can be filled with love. Make sure you also practice lots of self-love. That's another thing as mother trees that we can trip up on, being too focused on the relational aspects of things, and that is because of not fully understanding what we need to grieve, and we still have this longing and needing that we might want too much from those we're meant to lead. So the more resourced you are, the more strategic, the more um, strategic in the sense of you don't want to give when your cup is not full, and you want to first take care of that. And it's almost like the overflowing well. Secret healing well is the other metaphor name of my practice. So you make sure that you're overflowing, and you're resourced almost all the time, right? To overflow, you cannot even be half empty. So that's a thing. If we're not connected, that I see a lot, and we try to connect more to all the people, or all who are under our wingspan or under our canopy, instead of focusing just as much, or if not more, on filling up. So that's the last thing. Make sure you do that, and your cycle. The more your cycle, the more or the less your ego is part of this. And again, don't completely kill your ego, because you do need to assess your needs, biological, physical, spiritual. But if your ego is fully aligned, you're just gonna feel like you're flowing, like that hollow bone and things flowing through you, and you benefit um, from everything you give, because things are flowing and clearing through you. So you stay healthier, stay younger, all the toxins leave your body, you feel alive, you sleep well, you eat well, all the things. So that is how Mother Trees grow so big and stay healthy. And unfortunately, not a lot gets taught of how to do this. So it's an honor for me to guide you, Mother Trees, and hopefully this was very helpful. So at the end of the download or upload, what we do is just sit with our tree for a moment, really appreciating the paradoxical forces living and moving through us. I sometimes see also like a yin yang symbol, like a kaleidoscope, like it's always moving. So I call this dynamic wholeness. So as we sit there with this tree, which is very still, but we know there's a lot of movement moving through the trunk, a lot of life. It's also sacred masculine in the sense of the structure, the line, the solidity, and the wavy part above, and the root systems below. It's round and not rigid. So we're just sitting with this paradoxical complexity, allowing all the teachings to fully land, absorbing all the wisdom, making sure it goes to all the places within ourselves that need spiritual repair, that need recognition, that need validation, that need guidance. And once we have done that, we start to shift, and we start to pay attention to our surroundings, to the room we're in, where we're sitting. We become aware of our body. We start to stretch. Bring your attention and focus more into the room that you're in. Feel your mind aligning more with the waking state, with what you're going to be doing next, remembering that the sanctuary is there, all these teachings are there, your tree is there. Sometimes my clients joke and are going through a hard time and say, oh yeah, I have to tie myself to the tree, or whatever you need to do. Remember, it's always there. As soon as you remember it, because of something feeling off, see the pain signals, the distress. That's just a reminder that your tree is there. You can go back and you can realign, retreat, resource as much as you need to. So now for the time being, we're gonna walk our way back out fully, returning back to the room you're in, to the present moment. And when you're fully back here into the present moment, open your eyes when you're ready. Thank you for joining me today in staking out spiritual space in solidarity and in community. Please share this video and the Zoom link below with anyone who would love some support in hearing their authentic voice over all the noise and realign with clear choice. I offer me time through meditation virtual meetings every second and fourth Monday of the month from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. PST. If you would like deeper and more personalized guidance, how to heal, love, lead with Soul Authority, please visit me at soulauthoritycoaching.com or thesacredhealingrealm.com for more information.